Everyone, welcome to a Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max Peterson. Today, it's my pleasure to have a quick chat with one of our newest and most recent franchisees to join the Smith & Sons group. So I know I've been chatting a little bit about, what our guys have done and what we do for our guys, et cetera, et cetera. And today, Shane from Smith & Sons Vernon North has been kind enough to spare us a few minutes and come in for a chat. Welcome, Shane. It's great to have you here, bud.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Yeah. Look, man, it's super exciting. And as we sort of talked about off camera, it's really exciting to, see what happened, I guess, in the lead up to you coming on board. And then, of course, what you've experienced literally only 30 days in being involved with Smithies. As opposed to some of the guys that have been in it around, between 12 months and 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So, definitely what excited me was, the way that you introduced yourself to me and the business is quite outstanding, and we'll get onto that a little bit later. But, what I'd love you to do for the benefit of our audience is just, like we said off camera, off screen, is I'd love to just for you to chat a little bit about what you've done for the last 5 years, how you've done it, and the results that came about. Yeah. And then we'll get on to, what you've done in the last 30 days with Smithies and how it's been. So give us a bit of a rundown. What, obviously our head office is here in Vernon. Yep. And you're a resident of Vernon. So how have you been operating prior to Smithies? What was the scope of work? How were we advertising? All that sort of business.
So scope of work was just basically remodeling. So same thing that you guys are doing. Yeah, renovations, bathrooms, kitchens, basement developments, all that kind of stuff. I got into it. We moved out here. I was working at a different job, and that kind of crashed with the industry crash and back in 2016 type idea. Yep. So kind of reinvented ourselves out here and decided to open up a company doing renovations and so on and so forth. It started off as more of a general handyman type service. And then it very quickly escalated into renovations and stuff like that. Okay. As far as advertising and stuff like that with the company, when we took out a couple of advertisements, a lot of it was Facebook. We didn't do any major, Google ads or Kijiji ads or anything like that. A lot of it was just Facebook and trying to get word of mouth out there and stuff like that, which is very pertinent in a small town, I think. You have to build that name recognition. And in small towns, it's almost harder to do that than it is in a big city. Yeah. Because everybody wants to go with the buddy from down the street that's been around for 20 years, right?
Yeah, it's hard. That's what I was going to ask you next is how did you feel and how did you go about breaking in and what were some of the challenges? Because I know, we talked about Alex and how he had similar kind of challenges. He was brand new to Vernon as well. Yeah. You obviously experienced something similar in that respect.
Yeah, it's, you have to, trying to market yourself, being brand new, not having any contacts or anything like that, you go around and you do your thing. You put out advertisements, you put out, little mail-in things or something like that, and just try and do it that way. And hopefully, you get a call or you start introducing yourself to people, and hopefully that you can build off their network of people, right? The 6 degrees of separation type idea. And then once you start doing some jobs and you start posting pictures and stuff like that, especially on social media and all that kind of stuff, through your personal page and then the company page, you're trying to get the word out there. Yeah. A lot of people are on Facebook, a lot of people are on Instagram and stuff like that. We never did do an Instagram one. It was solely just Facebook. But I would spend the majority of my ad money doing that. Right, because I found that was the best basis to reach a broad scope of people.
So you're all optimistic. You come to Vernon, you have this shift, you make a bit of a start, and you've got some traction, and then you've, like you said, it escalated into some bigger projects. Yeah. Then obviously, let's say at year 3, give us a bit of a snapshot of how it was looking, because now you're past the honeymoon phase, and you've been in it long enough now to have some hindsight. some data, some historical data.
Yeah.
How are you looking at year 3 going into year 4 or something around that?
Oh, absolutely crap.
Yeah, right. Why is that? What happened?
So much ebb and flow.
Right.
You're busy one month and then your job's coming to an end and the phone doesn't ring, and then it doesn't ring for 2 to 3 weeks, and the next thing you know, it's ringing 4 or 5 times. So you always have it in the back of your head going, well, geez, how do I gain more work? How do I get more recognition out there? How do I get my name out there more? Right? You know, I when you have a limited budget for doing that kind of stuff,
Yeah, sure.
you know, you're stuck with doing certain things a certain way.
So you got limitations.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So because you're limited, you know, being a smaller operation, there's only so much you can do, because I mean, you know, you're not going to go take out a loan for $20,000 to go and advertise the crap out of your company. Right. And the last thing you want to do is crew up with a bunch of guys, because now it kills your overhead, and now you got to find work for these guys. And if the work doesn't come, well, then you're really in trouble.
So it's a catch-22, chasing your
Yeah,
tail,
exactly,
on
right?
the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
So by year 3 or 4, you're going around this mountain again, and you're like, really?
Yeah.
Like how am I? If I don't change what I do, then the outcome is inevitably going to be the same.
Yeah. I mean, you know, year 3 and year 4 was basically the exact same thing as year 2 and the last half of year 1, where you're busy for probably 7-8 months out of the year. You know, springtime, everybody gets the springtime fever. They want to get stuff done around their house. So, you know, March, April, May, June, July, you're busier than crap. You know, now everybody wants to get a couple of things going on. They want to get done before, you know, beginning of mid-April or beginning of mid-November. Right. They want it done before Christmas. And then December rolls around and you're dead. And that carries in, because now now you got the Christmas hangover, and you're getting into January and February, and then all of a sudden March rolls around and you're back to being busy again.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think, and then of course, you know, you have some concerns about the business operation, but then also what's tied to that is stress, and it ebbs and flows exactly the way that your leads were doing.
Oh, yeah.
So the leads would come in, not a lot of business stress, because you had cash flow and you had things to do, and you were distracted away from, you know, obviously the long-term part of the business.
Yeah.
But then, like you say, as it comes around to October, November, things start to taper off. All of a sudden, now your stress levels increase because of the unknown quantity as to what am I going to do to pay my bills.
Yeah. And that's exactly it, right? I mean, you go through it, and when things are good, you're happy, and you're you know, you're smiling, you're
I often say that really is a hills and valleys.
Yeah.
And I mean, the valleys are dark, and the hills can be imposters, because you think it's good, but it's only for a short time, because really the business model is it's come about by default, not by design.
Yeah.
In other words, you didn't design it that way. It's just the market actually dictating terms to you, rather than you setting up a business by design.
Yeah.
And so that's why that's like the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're not building a business. You are self-employed.
Yeah.
And you are at the mercy of the industry
to
some extent.
Yeah, and the worst part about it is you kind of screw yourself over at the same time, because now, you know, a job will come down the pipeline and you're knocking off your margins, you're knocking off your profits just so that you can get work, so that you can get money, so you can pay some bills.
Which is completely a race to the bottom.
Oh,
like it doesn't work.
It's a free fall from the top of the mountain, right?
Exactly.
I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. You get into that situation, and getting out of it is the hardest thing you'll ever have to do in your life.
So in year 4 and 5, forget about growing a business. I'm just trying to keep my nose above water.
You're survival mode.
Survival mode. That's a good way to put it.
100% survival mode. You're doing jobs so that you can make some money, so you can put food on the table. You know, and that's it.
So do you think, because we talked about this in training, you know, a month ago, you are acting out of more desperation than being deliberate as a business builder?
Yes. Yeah. 100%. You're doing things so that you, like I said, so you can make money to put food on the table. And that's your main motivation. That's your 100% motivation right there and you can put yourself into a really, really bad spot doing that, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, we all love to know, as humans, we all love to know where we're going or what's happening and like this. So for a self-employed business owner, most of the time we don't really know 30 to 60 days ahead of us what's going to happen to the business. We're literally flying blind all the time.
Yeah.
So when we talk about, obviously in training, we talked about strategic planning and business development. If I was to talk to the average builder general contractor about that and asked him when was the last time he did any strategic planning, he would say probably never. Yeah. Given it a little bit of thought, but just too busy paying the bills.
Yeah.
And so it's such a vacuum or such a trap that you can't get out. Yeah. Like the grip on you is so much. So let's fast forward then to middle of 2020, and you tell us about you had obviously some things happen that created a little bit of a change of your thought process, and you started asking questions, not like they were new questions, but certainly they were lingering. Yep. But it was at a point where you said, like, I got to draw a line in the sand and go, we've got to do something different. Tell me about like either the last part of 2019 into 2020 or the first half of 2020. And then, where you got to that point where you said, right, something's got to change.
Yeah. So probably about September of 2019, actually, we ended up getting a job for a basement renovation. And it was going to be a big job, especially for myself, considering I was doing 85% of the work.
So that was high five figures?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, we started doing that, and then things got postponed. Homeowner decided that he wanted to make sure he had full control over his house at the time. There were some family issues going on with that, so we pushed it back to the spring of 2020. The unfortunate part about that is that because of that, and because we thought that everything was going to move forward in September, we stopped our advertising. We stopped.
That's an interesting note. Why did you do that? Why would you turn off your marketing?
It wasn't so much that we stopped. It's just that we weren't hitting it as hard as we normally would. Right. So, instead of taking out an ad every 2 weeks, we were taking out an ad once a month. So
explain to me why, just from a question, why, when you got the job, what motivated you to then go, okay, so the next thing we have to do is just slow down on our marketing? Was it because you were trying to, because what we do is we wear the construction manager's hat, the salesperson hat, the financial administrator's hat. Like did you do the marketing thing from a budget motivation where you just want to save some money?
Yeah, it was part of that. Part of it was just trying to stay focused in the moment of the actual job, right? Didn't want to get too far ahead of myself with other things. The phone kept on ringing, and don't get me wrong. I ended up actually getting in touch with a guy that, he basically kept me busy all winter.
Right.
Which was, he was a godsend.
Was a savior.
He totally saved my butt. From that aspect, it was great. Okay, we're a little bit slow, but we were still, our head was above water, right? We were a neck out of water type idea instead of just the nose. April comes along, the renovation starts, everything's going great. Halfway through the renovation, things are just bumping along like crazy. And, I've got calls for another kitchen renovation, a potential whole home renovation.
Okay.
All that kind of stuff is starting to work its way through. And I'm thinking, hey, now we're catching traction. We're going here. Like this might work out, maybe
So we're into 2020 now.
Yeah, we're halfway through 2020 at this point in time, July, August 2020. And all of a sudden, the whole home reno guy's just price checker, right? And he wanted another quote from another guy so he could keep his other guy honest.
Yeah.
It happens, and that's fine. Right. It happens. It's going to happen no matter what.
But you were all in on that one quote.
Oh,
See, this is where you're vulnerable. When we do that SWOT analysis and we talk about where's our threats, where's our weaknesses.
Yeah.
The fact that you had a lineal sort of setup.
Yeah.
And you're only really quoting one job.
Yeah.
And the blind side was, you got me as a price checker. Yeah. Now you're fully exposed.
Well, exactly right. And at that time, going through it, financial wise, we were struggling. From a family standpoint, we were struggling, and we were looking at ways that we could cut down our monthly costs and all that kind of stuff. So we made some, drastic decisions.
Yep.
And said, okay, enough. Let's just do this and get it over with.
Okay.
And once that was done with, once that side stress was gone and out of my system. Within 2 weeks of that, it was like I had a revelation in life or something. I don't know what you'd want to call it.
Something
yeah,
divine.
I don't know. Maybe I had too many beer the one night or something. It's hard to say.
Okay.
But, you know, I always, you know, you talk about strategic planning and stuff like that. For 4.5 years, I used to sit down and strategic plan probably once a month.
Okay.
And I would try and figure out ways that I could do what I'm doing better. Knowing full well that there was always a better system, there was always a better way, there's always better answers as to how you move forward with a company.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, companies and corporations don't just start up and then, you know, carry on without, you know, some
design.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, for the renovation industry out here, I mean, it's busy. You can tell it's busy because the amount of trucks that you see driving around, you know, it's busy. Actually, I remember the first time I ever saw a Smith & Sons truck, I thought it was just a local guy. I had no idea about the brand in itself whatsoever, right? And I mean,
just another dude.
Well, yeah, it's just another dude. I mean, when you see that kind of stuff, you know that there's enough work out there for everybody to stay busy. And then you start taking a look at the quality of clients that you're getting, and you're going, okay, so how do I get from point A to point B? How do I get from the guys that want to have 95% of the control, and they want to dictate what you're going to make, they want to dictate what materials you're going to use, they're going to dictate all this kind of stuff. You know, I mean, I dealt with a lot of people like that, and you can't make any money off of that. You can't successfully run a business when all you're doing is providing labor.
Yeah.
Right.
So the first time you're exposed to the Smithies brand was a vehicle.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Guys will say to me, and you know, some of the other GCs in this town that I drink beer with, you know, they'll say, Max, I had one guy actually specifically said, Max, where do you get your decals done? Because I want to wrap my truck because I believe that's going to make all the difference. And I said to him, I said, dude, don't waste your time. Talk to me about your business model. Talk to me about your business plan.
Yeah.
Do you understand how much money you're making? Do you understand what your running costs are?
Yeah.
And he could not give me any straight answers. And I said, dude, a vehicle wrap is not going to help you. Not yet.
No. You have to have a plan in place first. I mean, you can decal up a vehicle and drive it around town.
Do nothing.
But if you don't know how to carry it from point A to point B, I mean, you know, if you don't know how to answer the phone properly, then
so guys say to me, they say, is it the truck? And I'll say no. And they say, is it the office? I'll say no. Is it the uniform? No. It's no one thing specifically.
No.
It's got to be all inclusive. It's basically what I say, we're all in on black.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, we basically have got all in on black. So anywhere that we can, you know, get eyeballs on our brand, and this is completely a brand awareness game. We day trade people's attention, which is why we've got full-time content creators. You know, we're doing this podcast. I've got video on this podcast at the same time. That is a massive, massive challenge. And so, so you recognize all this. You've actually sort of looked at some of the gaps and some of the deficiencies in your business. And you've then seen a Smithies truck. What happened then? Did that stay with you, that brand, or did you just happen to see that then on some social?
No. Well, I mean, so like I said, I saw that truck a couple of years ago. So it probably would have been, you know, Scott when he first started off with you, right? Because I know it wasn't your truck.
Yep.
And you know, so I mean, it was always in the back of my mind. It's like, oh, hey, you know, that's kind of a cool deco, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. You know, design, plan, construct. I'm like, that's a good logo. Like, I'm like, I like that. You know, and so, you know, if we fast forward a couple of years from there, I actually remember, you know, when we were sitting in our position of where we were at, and we're making those changes and we're doing those changes. And I'm sitting here going, okay, so, you know, moving forward here, what am I going to do? Right? What changes do I have to make to my company,
is like
to
mid-2020 or something?
Yeah, this is September of 2020, September of 2020.
Okay.
And it was a thing of, you know, what am I going to do to move this forward? Like, what am I going to have to do, right? The company's not going where I want it to go. I'm not gaining the traction that I want to gain. I know there's a better way of doing it, so what do I got to do?
Right.
It was at that point in time that I saw an advertisement on Facebook from Smith & Sons, basically saying, hey, if you're a general contractor, you should move to the Okanagan and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And I'm like, I already live here.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wonder how that would work.
Right.
I'm like, that's interesting. And then we got busy with, with what we were doing, right? I mean, we sold the house and we're busy moving and this and that and relocating and all that kind of stuff and getting things settled. And it was about a week after we were done. My wife had the conversation of, you need to crap or get off the pot and make a move.
Which is a great Canadian saying, just by the way.
Yeah. Like I said, so I saw the advertisement and I thought about it. I'm like, okay, well, this might work. And then it was funny because, at this point in time, it was about 2 to 3 weeks since I'd seen the ad. And now I'm frantically searching on Facebook to try and find the stupid thing.
And I know why you can't find it because I turned it off because we had too many inquiries.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
I'm searching, right? And then I'm looking at it and I finally find an old post from somewhere. I don't know where exactly it came from. But so I pull it up and then I'm seeing it. I'm like, Australia. I'm like, how does that work?
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking into it more. So that's when I fully started to research Smith & Sons and to figure out exactly what it was, where they were. Was extremely happy that I wasn't, being fooled with a Canadian division.
Right.
And then it kind of dawned on me the one day because I was driving down and drove right past the building and went, oh, hey.
Oh, there they are.
There they are. Like driven by there for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
It's funny, actually, my son used to deliver next door. So, yeah. So, I mean, I've been down and around here a long time.
We've only been here 3 years, so.
Well, yeah, this was only a couple of years ago, but I mean, even still, you don't think of it, right? No. And then all of a sudden, when you're looking for it, you're like, where is it? Right? So after looking at it, looking at the company, looking at the type of work that you guys did, through the social media, watching a couple of the podcasts, watching a couple of different things, basically trying to do some diligence.
Yep.
I talked about it with the wife a couple of times and said, I think that this might be interesting to look at. And she's like, I said, I don't, obviously we have to get some questions answered as to what the deal is, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, so what are you waiting for?
Just like that.
And I'm like, nothing. She's like, all right. So what are you doing today? That was I walked in the office.
Really?
Yeah.
She was pushing you. And, that is, go ahead.
Well, yeah, she was pushing me. She was basically confirming what I wanted to do anyway. It was just giving me that green light to just basically say, okay, yeah, go find out, right?
And what I like about you guys is you're very polar opposite in personalities, and I can hear Misty shoving you out the door.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And you are graciously accepting her prompt.
Yeah.
Because that's the way that the chemistry works between you guys, which is outstanding.
Well, yeah, I mean, 20 years, right? I mean, we've been together for 20 years, and I mean, we know every single deepest, darkest secret, which every relationship needs to have.
Yeah.
And, so, I mean, we've lived through everything together, the ups, the downs, the
good and the bad.
Extremes, the highs, the extreme lows.
Yeah.
And, our favorite saying is that we're both so broken that nobody would have us now anyway, so we might as well stick it out and get her going.
Okay. There's a hot take for this episode.
There you go. That's part 2. But, so, I mean, she was fully on board, right? Because she knows that I love doing what I do.
Yeah.
She knows that
That's
I love.
important.
Oh, I absolutely love it. I mean, for me, the design concept is the best part. Right. Taking people's ideas and making them come to fruition is just awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I mean, especially look on their faces when you're done and they're like, this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
And you're like, perfect.
Yeah.
Right. You're like, that's awesome.
There's a lot of reward in that, isn't there?
Yeah. It's that good old pride feeling, right? Like, I did a good job.
Yeah.
Pat yourself on the back and move forward.
So it's interesting to note that it was 3 weeks and 1 day after you had walked into the office that day, which totally caught us by surprise because the way, and I'm responsible at this point for selling all the franchises. I'm the one that is part of the design of the campaigns. I'm the one that makes the initial phone calls. I'm the one that if anybody's out there watching this and they've missed a call from me and you've heard a voice message, it'll absolutely be from me. Yeah. In this situation, it caught us off guard because you literally walked into the office completely unannounced, which had never happened in the history of Smith & Sons Canada, that's for sure. Yeah. And so it was when you had left, and I think Alex was in the office that day. Me and him would have been out the back just chatting about whatever. Yeah. And of course, I come out, greeted you, had a chat. And then I think I called Alex out, or he came out, and we again, that was a Thursday afternoon. We had a good chat. Yeah. And it was ironic. It was 3 weeks and 1 day after that initial meeting, which was totally impromptu, that you had got in the business, signed up, been through the 4-day training, and were basically shirts on, trucks wrapped, business cards made on the website, ready to go. Yep. And which it's amazing, but the trick was that you came through a process of life. Your self-awareness is what really, I guess, drew you to looking for an option. And then the pain of change was actually less than the pain of staying the same. And I think that's super interesting because we talked a little bit about this before. Yeah. The pain of change for people is less than the pain of staying the same. Whereas for you, it wasn't that way. Well,
I think the problem is that because I'd had that pain of staying the same for 3 years, 4 years, you hit that stage where you're literally like, well, there's
so
only
the pain
one way
of
to
change
go.
Was almost non-existent.
Yeah, I mean the pain was already there. It's just make the change and go with it, right? Yeah. And that's literally just the way we took it. And I mean, walking in here that day, when I walked out, I was like, as bad as it sounds, my mind was made up.
After that initial...
The minute I walked out the door.
You're right, this is me.
Yeah, this is what I want to do.
What resonated with you? Because obviously you'd seen some of the social stuff and all that, but what was the interaction? Because it wasn't rehearsed. I wasn't ready for it.
No.
What was it? Why, when you walked out, and you'd probably sat in the showroom here for an hour. Yeah. I mean, we must have talked, you, me, and Alex, for easily an hour. Yeah. It's almost like a chemistry thing, like you just felt it.
Well, yeah, it was a chemistry thing. It was, it was an alignment, 100% alignment, right? It was, you have an idea of what you want to do, and you have an idea of how you're going to get from point A to point B, but you have absolutely no idea how you're going to do it.
Right.
But you have a broad, what's the word I'm looking for?
A bit of an outline or
you
kind of got some structure.
You have some sort of an idea as to how you want to get up those stairs.
Right.
And when you take a look and you have a conversation with somebody and they're clicking every single box that you're asking about without you even asking that question.
Right.
When that happens, you're just like, where the hell were you 5 years ago?
Right.
Right. Yeah. And, so, I mean, literally when I walked out the door that day, I was like, this is exactly how I can see me taking what I want to do for a company and making it a reality. Yeah. Right. And not just a reality of getting by, a reality of, in 5 years, I'm going to be where I wanted to be 5 years ago. You know what I mean?
So I guess what I'm interested in just looking at really briefly is, obviously there was a difference between the business that you would run and the way you'd done it, whatever that business system was, which is fairly generic amongst trade people like you and me. We just kind of wing it, figure it out on the fly, and it's not terribly reliable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like we were saying before, there's 1% of a company that gets fast tracked into the business side of things, right? So whether you're, a carpenter, an electrician, plumber, or anybody in construction, right? There's that 1% of the field of employees that are going to make it into the office.
Right.
Right. So that they learn how to do the estimating, do the jobs, get the bids, all that kind of stuff.
So they move away from the technical aspect on the tools into the business management development side.
Exactly.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
And I mean, so if you're not privy to be part of that 1%, a lot of us figure it out on our own. We've have those conversations where we where we ask the questions of, hey, so how do you do this? How do you do that? Right. And I mean, sometimes you're going to get an honest answer out of somebody, and a lot of times you don't. For some reason, I'm not quite sure.
Well, you
why.
don't exactly go to your competition and ask for advice because they probably won't give it to you.
Well, no, but not even your competition. I mean, and this comes back from, when I was a young apprentice, I mean, I would ask how to, bid jobs, just so that I had an idea, right? Because I always had a business type of mind, right? And,
interesting.
So I would get some of the answers I would get would be great. And some of the answers I would get would be like, it's none of your business.
Yeah.
And, so I mean, going through it and stuff like that, like you said, you kind of learn how to do it, right? I mean, everybody knows how to price a job to the basics. You take you figure out what you're going to need for material. You figure out how much it's going to take you for time. You figure out what your time's worth, right? And you go from there.
And that's to me, that's fairly unreliable, but it's a start.
Yeah.
But if you had, guys, the challenge is we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
So unless you've been exposed to a better way, you'll just keep thinking that what you're doing is the right way or the best way or the only way.
Yeah.
But you'll always understand that the result that I'm getting from doing it my way is far below what I expect.
Yeah.
And I can't even see how I can go about changing that.
No.
So when you got into the Smithies thing and you sat through the 4-day training, was that an eye opener?
Oh, massive eye opener.
Right.
I mean, honest to God, as a small guy who basically does T&M jobs,
right?
It's amazing the eye opening that you get.
And I'm pretty aware as a trainer, and I'm not a trainer, but I have the role to train. Is that I know that we don't want to sit in a classroom for 10 days.
No.
And because we've always learned on the fly, I still believe that's the best way for you to learn. I mean, we've had a little bit of interaction in 30 days.
Yeah.
And I think you would actually take on more when it's a real live situation.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff that we talked about in training that you've asked me about again since.
Yeah.
But it just seems to solidify in your thought process more when it's actually a live situation.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly it. I mean, you can be told it once,
Correct.
And then you have to ask about it, and then it usually should be ingrained into your head right. after that. But yeah, I mean, you talk about eye opening, just crazy. There's
a lot more to it than meets the eye in there.
Oh,
to run a successful construction
business.
I
mean, there are so many moving parts, and if you can't get your head wrapped around the 90% of the stuff that you are not in control of,
yeah,
and you're trying to base it off the 10% that you do know, and you've got it down, you're going to fail.
Yeah, you're going to struggle at best.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about. So tell me about. Let's do a quick snapshot of say this. December after Christmas and January up until whatever today's date is, the 15th of January 2021.
Yeah.
Tell me about what is the differences between your business, which 12 months ago, and what you've experienced in the last 30 days? Because you've literally only been in the business right on 30 days. If today's the 15th, what is the day today?
Yeah, 15th.
It's literally 30 days, right?
Yeah.
So you've been in and around the business, really not operational for more than, because you're in training for 4 days.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the differences and the the dynamics of the business that was and now that is.
Well, okay, so last January, basically had pretty much the whole month of January off.
How come? Why?
No leads.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
No phone calls, no nothing.
Twiddling your thumbs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. Treading water, trying to figure out, there's the stress factors going through the roof by now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Trying to figure out when, like I said, we had that basement coming up. I was trying to figure out when that was going to start, what I was going to do in the meantime. All that kind of stuff, eventually I think it was probably right around, well, it might've been right around now that I did get a phone call about a kitchen to do.
Right.
So, that made me happy because I knew I had something coming up. But in comparison to now,
tell me about now.
So in 30 days, I've had, I think it's 15 leads handed to me. So 15 leads. I've got 2 jobs that I'm physically quoting right now to start.
That you're gonna close. It's fairly certain that those 2 will close.
Yeah. You're probably looking at 95% plus that those jobs will get landed and quotes will be signed and jobs will be commencing.
Right.
We've got a couple other estimates delivered, waiting for callbacks and stuff like that.
The beauty about that I see is, you know, and it's fairly typical.
Yeah.
You know, where I guess you're blessed is the fact that, you know, we've been in this town for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wouldn't say it's a typical situation, but there's guys that I've talked to about this business before you come along that could, but they still didn't see it.
Yeah.
You know, so good for you, bro, for stepping out and going and doing it. And you're benefiting from that chance that you took to get on board with Smithies.
Oh, definitely. I mean, night and day difference.
Yeah.
I mean, honest to God, from a personal standpoint, I couldn't be happier.
So do you think it's probably one of your best Januaries since you came to Vernon?
Yes.
Amazing.
Aside from the first January.
Right, because it's happy days and it's honeymoon and
yeah, brand new house. And I mean, when we moved out here, we moved in October. So I mean, it was the first Christmas on the house. I just actually finished.
Yeah,
we finished renovating the kitchen on December 24th.
Way to go! All right, glue was still wet.
Grout was still wet. That was stressful.
Yeah. So you know, I think what will it's, you know, it's night and day, like you said, and I think it's got a lot to do with the pipeline. You know, we talk about top of funnel leads, then you're quoting through, and you've got 2 jobs which are 95% going to go to contract by the end of January.
Yeah.
Then you've got other leads that are coming behind it, which you're working on simultaneously.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you understand the power that branding and marketing and the lead gen system has, because you can literally now you're is it fair to say that you're qualifying and disqualifying leads differently to maybe what you were last year?
Yes, 100%.
You understand the power of disqualifying and really highlighting what's a good lead and not a good lead.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is intuition. And I mean, I think any small business owner knows, you know, if they're getting price checked, if they're getting, you know, whatever. But when you see it from a different light, and you've got that educational part of it behind you with that information that you guys give us, which is, you know, you're going to see this, you're going to see this, and you're going to see this, but this is how you recognize it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That information is massive when you're walking into a client's house, because you can ask a series of 4 or 5 questions, and how they answer those questions is going to tell you right away where you're going to go. Right? You know at that moment whether or not you have a 50% chance of getting a job, 75% chance, 100% chance, 0 chance, or if they are doing, you know, what we all hate, and in that case, then you throw out a number and see you later.
No, everything's very systemized. You know, I was always a believer when I got on board with Smith & Sons and began to sort of look into how we were going to launch the brand here in North America. You know, it came down to science and psychology. It's very scientific how we handle customers, but it's also, there's a lot of psychology that goes into it as well, because we're all humans. And I think it's just the awareness, you know, about how we deal with clients like that. Something else, which we'll probably finish on this, it was really encouraging for me to hear. I think it was in the beginning part of this week, a couple of days ago, where you mentioned that I mean, I got a text message from either yourself or an email about an email address for Misty. And so, you know, what I like about that is that not only is this business giving you a system or a structure, it's not only, you know, you've been able to attach yourself to a brand. You've not only got me on speed dial, you know, for some of that insight, but it's actually made in that 30 days. It's also made a very personal difference in your life.
Oh, for sure.
And so, you know, it's encouraging to know that the business has actually given you and Misty the strength to be able to, or the confidence to go, actually, you know what, this is it. It's all in on black, you know. And so, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but a week or so ago, she gave her 2 weeks notice, and now she's basically fully involved because your workload has you know, increased. You're like, hey, I need a hand.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, you know, when you're quoting one job every 3 months and doing one job every 3 months, you can handle that workload. When you have the potential of having 5 or 6 jobs going on at the same time, you need that extra set of eyes, you need that extra set of hands, and you need the person that's going to be able to ground you to keep you from flying off the handle or, you know.
Good team.
Anyway, And, you know, I mean, as much as we bicker between ourselves, we work really well together.
It's good.
And because, I mean, whatever weakness I have, she has those in strengths and vice versa. And, moving forward, it's going to be a great opportunity for both of us. So looking forward to it this year. This year started off on a really good note, in my opinion. I mean, last year ended on a really good note. We're starting off this year on a really good note. And we've got so far to climb, and we're ready to get at it.
Well, man, look, I really appreciate you coming in. I appreciate you sharing with us, your experience so far, and I'm sure we'll get you back on the show again.
Yeah.
But, we wish you all the best, and we're looking forward to running fast with you and helping you to grow the business, as quickly and as great as you can. So if you've enjoyed what you've heard, we'd love for you to, like, subscribe, share. If you've got any questions, pop them in the comment section below. And look, if you want to ask them any questions about this episode or any of the information that you've heard previous, you can email me at max@businessforbuilders.ca. We really appreciate you chiming in, and we look forward to the next episode. So thanks very much. Have a great day.